Most people do not know just how big Australia is. Today marks day 9. The world's smallest continent, Australia, is wider than the moon. The moon sits at 3,400 kilometers in diameter, while Australia's diameter from east to west is almost 4,000 kilometers. As a sphere, the moon does have more surface area, just not in diameter. To put this in perspective, Australia's diameter is roughly the distance from Paris all the way to West Kazakhstan. But did you know you can also fit a large contingent of Europe inside Australia? And it is nearly the size of mainland United States of America. But for most travelers who want to visit both New Zealand and Australia, this distance is much further than you would think. At its closest point, they are roughly 1,500 kilometers apart, which is roughly equal to going from Madrid to Amsterdam. And so, a flight from Sydney to Wellington quickly takes you more than 3 hours. In comparison, this is roughly a flight from Amsterdam to Ankara. Follow along our journey as we unravel the world's strangest geography facts.
Did you know that Australia is wider than the moon? It might seem astonishing, but the vast landmass of Australia extends from its easternmost point to its westernmost point across an impressive 4,000 kilometers, 2,485 miles. In contrast, the moon, our closest celestial neighbor, has a diameter of about 3,474 kilometers, 2,159 miles. This means that the width of Australia surpasses the diameter of the moon by over 500 kilometers. Imagine that, a single continent on Earth, not just spanning multiple time zones, but also exceeding the width of an entire celestial body that orbits our planet. Australia's sheer size is even more impressive when you consider its diversity in landscapes, from the arid outback to lush rainforests and vibrant coastal cities, all contained within a landmass wider than the moon itself.
You probably know this region as Australia, Oceania, or the Australian continent. But which one is correct, and what is the difference between them? Firstly, Australia is the largest country in the region with a population of about 25 million and includes the mainland, Tasmania, and nearby islands, with its capital in Canberra. When we talk about the Australian continent, it extends to include the island of New Guinea, the Aru Islands, the Ashmore and Cartier Islands, most of the Coral Sea Islands, and some other nearby islands. Australia is the smallest of the 7 continents. Oceania, on the other hand, is a much broader geographic region that encompasses Australia, New Zealand, and numerous Pacific Island nations and territories. It's divided into 3 main subregions: Melanesia, including Fiji and Papua New Guinea; Micronesia, with countries like Palau and the Marshall Islands; and Polynesia, which includes Samoa and Tonga. It's important to note that while all of Australia is part of Oceania, not all of Oceania is part of Australia.
This is the flag of Australia, and here's the flag of New Zealand. Notice anything similar? Both feature a blue field with the Union Jack in the top left corner. But how did they end up with such similar designs? Well, Australia was the first to adopt its flag in 1901 after a design competition. The Union Jack in the top left corner reflects Australia's historical ties to the United Kingdom, and the Commonwealth star below it represents Australia's 6 states, with 1 point for the territories. The Southern Cross constellation on the right symbolizes the country's location in the Southern Hemisphere. New Zealand's flag, on the other hand, was officially adopted in 1902, although it had been in use since 1869. It also features the Union Jack. However, instead of the Commonwealth star, New Zealand's flag displays 4 red stars with white borders, representing the Southern Cross constellation. This constellation not only marks New Zealand's location in the Southern Hemisphere, but also reflects the history it holds for the indigenous Maori people, who have used stars for navigation for centuries.
Did you know that Australia is wider than the moon? The moon sits at 3,400 kilometers in diameter, while Australia's diameter from east to west is almost 4,000 kilometers. Australia is both the world's largest island and the smallest continent. It's the only country that is also a continent. Australia is the 6th largest country in the world by land area. Australia is the only continent without an active volcano. Its volcanic activity ceased millions of years ago. Australia has several pink lakes, the most famous being Lake Hillier on Middle Island. The pink color is due to the presence of algae and high salt concentrations. Australia has some unusual laws, such as it being illegal to walk on the right-hand side of a footpath in Queensland. And, until recently, it was illegal to change a light bulb in Victoria unless you were a licensed electrician.